I'm not going to go looking for trouble, but if you want to start that, I'm quite happy to fight.
Real is you can use on your life. Other martial arts is you use just on the cage.
I first came across Silat in the UK in something like 1983, 1984 from a Malaysian Silat guru, Jualati, Jack Othman, who was over here studying at the University of Surrey. I trained with him initially for I think 2-3 years. He did an accelerated training program as well as weekly lessons. So I became an instructor in Silat Goyang, going Harimau with him. Then I came across another Silat teacher, Richard de Boards, who is a teacher of Harimau Silat from Indonesia. And I trained with him as well and got a black belt from him. 1987, our team with Jack came to Malaysia to the World Championships, 4th World Championships, where we competed for Great Britain. When the competition was finished, my intention was to stay in Malaysia and train Silat with Jack, but he was busy doing something, so he said to me, here's some people that do Silat, I'm going to leave you with them, and he left, and the people he left me with were some of the senior instructors in Silat Lincah.
Silat Lincah is the largest association of Silat in Malaysia. Existing since 1963, this association has now about 1 million members around the world. With the arrival of Glenn Peter Lobo to Malaysia during 1987, he has hugely impacted the constitution of this ancient Malay martial art.
They said, we have to take you to see Mahaguru. So we went to Luton to see him. And they said, the reason we have to take you is because if you want to learn more, we need his permission. Because in the constitution of Silat Lincah, we're only allowed to teach it to Malay Muslims. And because you're not Malay, you're not Muslim, we have to get his permission, because he wrote the constitution. So when I went there, he interviewed me and he said, it's fine, you can learn Lincah. If you're serious and you come back, you can come and stay at my house and I'll teach you personally. So over the years I went back and I ended up staying with him. So 1987 I trained in Lincah for the first time. So that was my introduction to Malaysian Silat. In 1999, my students and I were invited to Penang to a large ceremony that Mahaguru organised with the then Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia. This is a picture that was in one of our local newspapers of my students, myself, Mahaguru, his son, his wife and his daughter. Again, a very proud moment for me, that one, because I was given the Selendang Hitam, the highest grade in Silat Lincah. This newspaper was one of the national newspapers in Malaysia, in England. So it went around the whole country every day, daily national newspapers. It was fairly new, didn't last that long, but it was a recognised national newspaper. And this would have been December the 9th. I went out to compete in the World Championships in Jakarta. And here we have an article about me as well. thing that I like most about this is that the article below it was a write-up about a middleweight boxing match between Nicky Piper and Nigel Benn, the world middleweight boxing champion. So they had this amount of the page and I had that, which makes me feel just a little bit good.
Silat has divided into 4 categories. One of them is Seni, which in English means art. Bunga, and some people call this the flower dance. It is not a dance with flowers, but a soft expression of the hard fighting techniques designed to show grace and beauty and soft style hiding the power and strength within.
So in the Sumba Perguruan that I use in Europe, we have different aspects to it, and each part has a meaning specific for me. So when we start, this is the opening salutation from Lincah. So the hand movements are blocks. This is to help prepare the mind for training or for fighting. And this is part of the movements that go with it. So we've got all these, changing the angles. So we've got different combat applications for these as well. This is a sign of using the kris. So you would bring out a kris. These are the waves of the kris. In my interpretation, I offer someone a hand of friendship, which I would take to my heart. If they don't accept that, I ask for God's blessings for my thoughts, my words and my feelings, to then enter and engage in the fight. It's an expression of what I intend to do in the fight should somebody wish to engage. One of the reasons for us using the Sumba Perguruan is that if you're travelling and you get into a situation where you're in conflict with someone, you argue with them and you go to fight, in Silat you would start with your Sumba to show your intent and your style. If you happen to have met someone that's from the same style but from a different area that you've not met before, you would obviously recognise each other's styles and say, well, I'm not going to fight you because you're my Silat brother because we have the same style. So it's another way of avoiding conflict rather than just going and fighting.
Here, where a lot of Silat warriors or Pendekar were born, is Luton City, where Glenn has been teaching Silat since 1987.
So Andy, you right leg crosses behind your left for the first set.
For over 30 years, he has taught over 1,000 students that want to learn Silat.
2, together and out. 3, behind and out. 4, together and out. For me, there's 2 philosophies in Silat. There's the philosophy of fighting and the sort of structure of how you would do that, and the philosophy in life as well. So the philosophy in life is humility as a primary thing. But for me, one of my Silat teachers said to me, the only people that should be allowed to hit you is your children and your teacher. So your students, maybe your teachers. No one else. Anyone else wants to hit you, then you fight. So, yeah, I'm not going to go looking for trouble, but if you want to start that, I'm quite happy to fight, because it's, if what you're doing is wrong, then I'll stand up. So there's a philosophy in life which is to walk away from trouble, but if you have to engage, then I'm prepared to fight.
Main difference is real. You can use on your life, because other martial arts is you use just on cage. If you big fighter, but that's not nothing which can help you if somebody attack you on the street or something like that. You can as well defend with other martial arts, but it's not effective like Silat.
And it seemed to have all the components that I wanted. It wasn't reliant on strength or size, very much skill orientated. It had weapons, so it could deal with weapons and unarmed fighting. It had an artistic side to it, so it had a bit of grace and beauty to it. It wasn't just raw fighting. You know, I'm not someone who goes looking for fights, looking for trouble. So I want to be able to protect myself and I want to have fun doing it, but I don't want to just fight. So I don't want to go in the ring and do MMA fighting. And Silat appealed to me on lots of different levels with that. As I was younger, I thought, well, you know, judo was fine, but I can't wrestle. Taekwondo is fine, but I can't kick high. So you want something that's going to cover all of those things. Silat has that.
CBS News has listed Silat in the top 20 world's deadliest martial arts. But the number of people that want to learn it has increased every year.
Silat is actually quite a dangerous art. If you look at arts like karate, taekwondo, judo, they've been altered for civilian life and for sport, and for fitness and for training. Silat, I think, is one of the arts that hasn't been adapted for sport to the same degree. There's obviously a Silat Olahraga sports side to it, but in the main it hasn't been altered for that. So the techniques are still with a kris or karambit or a pisau, a knife or golok or whatever. So they're still for fighting. So it hasn't been altered for that. So I think that's one of the things that makes it quite a dangerous art, because the intent is to protect yourself and to fight and potentially to kill as well.
Sometimes an unexpected incident can happen during the training. Therefore, a good Silat guru not only must teach their student to fight well, but must also be a good healer for the student.
So we have different ways of massage and healing. Some of the ways I've been taught just for my job as an osteopath. You're going to find the muscle that's tight and just look to massage it, ease it out. So I'm just looking for the muscle that's tight here. Now you can also, there are prayers that you can say while you're doing this, and there are sort of breathing exercises that you can do with it as well. So take a deep breath in, breathe out. Okay, try that.
That healing things, what I've seen today and I've been introduced before, that's really interesting stuff. I've been taught some stories from, I'm not sure now if it was from Indonesia or Malaysia, from the culture and from actually the religion and all these things about the healing and about, how to say it? Spiritual? Yeah, the spiritual thing.
The most closely guarded secret in Silat is the spiritual knowledge, ilmu batin. Literally translated, it means knowledge of the soul. This is a normal tamat ceremony or graduation day for Silat Lincah in Malaysia. Silat practitioners believe it can build up resistance to pain. Mandi Minyak is an example of this, where the oil heals up all their injuries.
All this tradition, it is a bit more interesting than the Western things. Western things is quite boring and quite pure.
My understanding is that some of that is a test of faith, and also it's not just your faith in the guru, it's your faith in your religion as well. So you recite verses of the Quran and work that way. So I understand it and I see it. I've experienced it on lots of occasions. I've taken part in it, so I'm familiar with it. Again, I don't think it would be a good thing to do here, because I think we have a totally different culture and different aspect to the training.
Lincah means fast and aggressive, rapid movements. In Britain, they will have a class once a week. Therefore, students will spend 7 hours in the training sessions in order to master all the movements.
No, it's hard. I think with any form of training, you get in what you get out what you put in. To be honest, so you've got to put the hours in, and you have to be have that drive, that go. And when you have Glenn, he'll be looking at what you're doing, he'll be correcting what you're doing. If you're just going to turn up, I'm a bit tired now, and that, then it's not for you.
The actual training in Malaysia, again, is very different to here, partly because of the climate. So in Malaysia you train outdoors, it's 30 degrees at night. Here, the coldest winter we had a few years ago, I think the temperature in the UK got to -25. So I said to people, it's like being in your freezer. So you can't train outdoors then, it's too cold. You can't train barefoot outdoors because it's just too cold. So you then have to train indoors, which means you're training on harder floors. So all the rolling and things that you do, you're rolling on concrete. It becomes very hard on the back, it's very painful. So my training has changed over the years, especially as I've got older, because I don't want to be rolling around on the floor on concrete, doing jumping and things, because it hurts too much. You land on your knees, you land on your back, it all becomes too painful. And then when you start to teach children, they don't want to be thrown on their back because it hurts. The parents don't want the children to be thrown around on concrete because it hurts. So then you think, well, I need to have mats. And there's all the things that change the way you have to teach.
Climate and geographical factors are not the only challenges that Glenn has to face in order to spread Silat around Europe. There are bigger issues than that.
I've had a lot of problems with people trying to stop me teaching Malaysian Silat. I've had various offers to go to Indonesia and train there, and they want me to. They were quite happy years ago to pay for me to go to Indonesia and train there, pay for my flight, pay for my accommodation, pay for my training, but I had to give up doing Malaysian Silat, which I wasn't prepared to do. As I said earlier, loyalty is quite an important thing for me, so I was happy to come to Malaysia and train. I've given my loyalty to Lincah. And to then have someone say to me, well, if we pay you, will you come and train in Indonesia? And my answer to that is no. So from there, I then had some other problems because they didn't like that as an answer. Either by threatening me or by saying that I'm doing bad things and just lying to make their position better.
Glenn is not the only one in his family that fell in love with this martial art. His 15-year-old daughter shares the same interest as well. She is very committed to continuing her father's legacy in Silat.
I love that he does Silat. I'm fascinated at how he can do Silat so well at such a high level, and I like that he's got something interesting and it just makes him really interesting. Apart from improving your fitness and improving your confidence and your focus, for me, I get to train with my dad, so it's also good to, well, spend time with him basically.
My hope for development in the future is the same as it has been over the years. This year I decided I was going to spend a bit more time pushing and promoting Silat. So I'm looking to do a bit more advertising and marketing. I've said this before, but I've actually taken it on a little bit more seriously this year. Partly with the sad passing of Tan Sri Omardin in Malaysia last year. So I had promised him in '92 that I was going to help spread Silat Lincah around the world. And hopefully certainly throughout Europe I've done that. I've got people in America that know who I am and that know my Silat Lincah, so I'm hoping that I can get over to America and do some teaching for Silat Lincah there, and to spread it more around Europe as well.
He dedicated his life for several decades to learn and spread the Silat Lincah around the West. He became the first Westerner to gain the highest grade for an instructor in Lincah. Therefore, the journey of his life in Silat could inspire the younger generation in the martial art world to be more determined, committed to what they had learned and practiced.